Hello, welcome to Miss Silly Lessons Learned. Today I have a very special guest because she actually is related to me. I would like to introduce you to my little sister, Connie Silavong Sai. Connie, can you say a quick hello before I show the audience like the video of everything that you have been working on?
Sure. Hi, sis. My name is Khonnie Silivongse, and just like Anna said, I am her younger sister.
Mhm. Thank you, Connie. All right, so first of all, we're going to show like a quick video just highlighting what Connie, has been up to all these years. Let me know if you can see. Can you see that, Connie?
Yeah,
Okay.
forgot you found that. Yeah, those are all from my volunteering community work. Yeah, there's quite a few with my Valley Leadership Group.
Hmm.
Aw, Jane. Aw,
Great pictures.
wow, yeah. Some of them are a little older, some new.
I thought that's appropriate to end the slide, show with that. That's like the most recent thing, that you've been up to as well. So I'm going to stop sharing the screen and we are going to just take a moment to talk about like what's on the slideshow. So Connie,
Okay.
can you just, kind of tell them like what are the highlights from that, slideshow, things that you have done in your career that you feel, proud of?
Hmm. Well, I think most of that stuff was, my volunteering days. When I first moved here, to Phoenix, I was trying to find, an Asian group to be a part of because I wanted to, advocate, and get to know the Asian community. So I was part of NAP, which, now is called a cell. So I just started with, the social arm where we just did some volunteering work. So, I just set up, different stuff. Like one time we went to go pick up grapefruit from people's backyard because it was to clean it up and stuff. So
Mhm.
then from then on, I mean, I would attend their meeting because I was trying to network. And then also, but then it turned into when they started their mentorship program, I got more involved. So because I quit for a while and then, went to volunteer with Big Brother, Big Sister. But then when they started that mentorship thing, they asked me to be a mentor. So I did that for like actually I think about a year to for a couple of mentors, those are the pictures with Amelia, and with Sheena. So I
Mhm.
did that for a while. And then I actually was on the mentorship committee because, I really liked the work. I thought it was, we were doing good stuff. So I did that, I think, for another year or so. But then, after that, I got involved with Valley Leadership. And then I, stopped doing the volunteering and stuff after I started the Valley Leadership, and then I was still volunteering with Big Brother, Big Sister. And then at that time, it was like, gosh, I don't know, 6, 7 years of constantly volunteering. So I was just, taking a step back and then wanted to do, something different. And then again, did Valley Leadership for 10 months. And then now the only thing that I'm volunteering with is, quarterly meetings with the Phoenix Police Department Asian Advisory Board. And I started doing that because obviously, I've worked with, the police and, in their mental health unit. But then I thought this would also be a great way where, I wasn't doing too much of the volunteering, but still
Mhm.
keeping my foot in the, community, just trying to, advocate. And because I already had a good working relationship with Phoenix Police Department and Mesa. So,
Mhm. Do you find that, I know you work with like the police department like since college, right, Connie? Uh,
mhm.
what did you do in college? How would you work? Was it like a work study?
Yeah,
Where you end up at the police department?
Yeah, actually, V, got me the gig because I had forgotten, but like, because he knew Sharon and Ray. Ray was the chief of police at university campus of ENMU, and then Sharon was the office manager. And so yeah, I did my all my 3 years of college, there study, so it was great because I got more hours. We got more hours, and then we had to work registration. So we always got our, classes that we registered for. And I loved it because at the time, I mean, my undergrad is in criminal justice. I actually thought I wanted to be a probation officer or a police officer. And so this is like great, to work with police officers and just to see how things were done. And I mean, obviously that's when I realized, I didn't want to be a police officer, or even a probation officer actually, because although I think they're great and and I think what they do is important, I also saw it though as they were the defense of like when somebody got in trouble. I wanted to be more of the face of like that they didn't have to be too scared. I didn't have a badge, which probation officers and police officers do, and so that's why I wanted to be a social worker. And so, but Eastern New Mexico University didn't have a social work program, and so that's why 8 years later, after I graduated, then I went back to grad school. But actually, the job at the police department, EMU, helped me because, sometimes I'd help transport, people, clients and stuff to one time had to transport this guy. He was, having behavioral health issues and stuff. And I went with the sheriff's department to actually Las Vegas State Hospital. And I didn't even know that, New Mexico had one. So then when I saw that and I, doing the ride and just, it was sad, but it was like, watching this guy really like, he was suffering from whatever behavioral health issues that he had, but he's in the back of a police car and, but he's being transported to a hospital. And so I was like, hey, wait a minute, this might, be an interesting, career because, I really loved learning about that stuff, people's behavior, because, that's like our psychology class. And then that started my what at the same time as you've been teaching 27 years is the years that I've been in the behavioral health because my first job, was at a day program for a behavioral health agency, because that's when I had moved to Dodge City where V was. So yeah, that's how I started, my law enforcement relationship with the law enforcement since college, and then intertwined with the behavioral health again since college. So I think it's really great that I'm still doing that. Although
Yeah.
it's a miracle actually that I'm still doing it. I don't know. You remember my first job? I got well basically kicked, almost kicked off a porch by a client. It was a domestic violence issue. I got sexually harassed at the first job, and
Yes.
I was like, it was a horrible first year. And as you know, that's when you asked me to go, live in Yuma, and I was like, okay, I need to change because I don't even know if I could, work in the mental health field because actually the first lesson, hard lesson I learned in the mental health field was other than that, sometimes the clients, they can get physical, but not my 27 years. That's really the only time that, I've actually been physically, some, a client has physically, tried to, you know, um, push me or whatever. Cause
Mhm.
at other times, we're trained and we just, learn to deal with it and to de-escalate. But he didn't get arrested. The next day I had to see him at the day program because his wife was my client. And so, it was a DV situation. And I had to learn to like, like, wait a minute, nothing's gonna happen to him. I was, upset and frustrated. But one of the things though that was also a frustration was I was on call. Early in my career, I was always on call. That's why I went and got my master's. I was like, I don't want to be on call all the time. However, there were two of us. I actually had a partner, a guy who was supposed to be my backup, and so he was too busy watching a sports event. And so he took his slow time to go to the house. I'm like, I'm not going to wait for you when it's a domestic situation between, my client and her husband. It was ongoing, and sometimes it got, rough and things like that. I wasn't going to let her wait there by herself, because she had a car accident. And so her, capacity, mental capacity was like of a 10-year-old,
Wow.
so yeah. So again, that first year in the behavioral health was not something that I was like, oh well, this is my career. I'm gonna stick through it. But but hey, lo and behold, 27 years ago, I am still
Yeah.
here.
Yeah, I still oh my gosh, I feel like that was like yesterday. I remember, you telling me about that being kicked. And I was like, if that was me, I would quit. I'd be so scared. Was there ever a time at all, Connie, where you actually felt uncomfortable or like a little bit scared, like in your job in any area, like whether it's at the group home or anywhere?
Yeah. You know what? I don't think scared was the right, word. It's more like I was, that's when I became, always vigilant of my
Yeah.
surrounding, and where I was at and stuff. Actually, my internship, my first internship in college was also at a boys' home in Portales. I don't know if
Yeah,
you
the
remember that.
reintegration place, right, Connie? Was
Yes,
that called
exactly.
the
That's what it was.
reintegration place?
Yes,
Yes.
yes. And, full circle, I'm working part time at a boys' home. But anyways, through being a social worker, just like being a probation officer or somebody who does case management, I had to learn to be comfortable because we're going in people's home on our own,
Mhm.
don't know what's going on, but we're there. Hey, I'm there to help. And
Yeah.
a lot of times, again, it's sometimes it's because they're aggressive or they have they're danger to self to others, or you don't know what to expect. So I always kind of laugh now, or like when my probation officer friends or police officer friends, yeah, granted, most of their situation is probably more dangerous, but I was in the same situation because again, I've had to go on calls, with police. Like one of my first job was in, Texas,
Yeah.
and they're calling me because a guy is like, they're saying like, he's at the ER, he's saying all these words, demonic and stuff. Remember, this is like my second year. I'm like, I don't know what's going on. They have guns that they expect me to talk the man down, but at least it was called off. I didn't have to go, before they got him in handcuffs and stuff. But again, you're used to it. The thing is, all my years, that was the only time that somebody, physically, touched me, pushed me, or basically he tried to kick me down the stairs. But all the other times, watching, working with people who have a mental illness, again, my first, job, I still remember two of the, clients, to this day, bless their heart. One was a college guy. He had everything going on for him. Tall, handsome, smart, then bam, like that, schizophrenia. You know,
Wow.
he's in his early 20s. And then he just became totally opposite, and he ended up getting services, and at the time, all these meds were Thorazine and stuff and knocked you out. And so he was just slugging away, and just to see that potential, but, talking to them, and another gentleman, he actually had committed murder, but he had spent his time in prison. But again, he was on heavy duty meds and he was the nicest, kindest guy. You would
Yeah.
never think, that he had done that. And so working with them, because basically they have no support. You're like their
Wow.
only support. It's like sad when you realize, wow, I, think I have problems or complain about my life. This guys don't have any family. A lot of
Wow.
people are scared of them, especially, back then, mental illness, everybody was scared. Remember mom and dad was like afraid for me and stuff. But
Yes.
it's not. Trust me, it's the normal public that scares me because most of the time people with mental illness, they're not going to do you any harm, unless they're like really angry and they're in their psychotic break and you're making them mad. You're not able to de-escalate. Well, then yeah. So that's why I had to learn, in this field. You learn quick, like how to de-escalate, and not to antagonize somebody. But again, just one of the things, is like empathy. I just
Yeah.
felt so sad because you know what? The whole month, I would be the one that they would see in home visit because they didn't have anybody else, or
Oh,
go to the day program because you know what? They had nobody else, and it was just
yes.
just heartbreaking. So that's
Yeah.
why through all these years, it has helped me. Like I'm not scared of them. They've always been, I mean, hilarious. They're just like everybody else. But
Yeah.
because they have a mental illness and society push them in a corner and everybody's scared of them. And so but for the mental health professionals and stuff to be their only support, it was sad, but it was also um what do you call it, inspiring, because
Yes.
day after day, they go to that program because that's their life, and they enjoy it. And again, I had good coworkers and stuff, and we may normalize their mental illness for them. So yeah.
Yes. I remember, Connie, when you were working in Yuma, you would tell me a lot of your clients, they live under the bridge or by the river, and they don't get that much money. You know
Hmm.
what I mean? Like, let's say, how much they get, like $600 for
Yeah,
Social Security or
87.
something like that.
Yeah. Hmm.
Isn't that like isn't that interesting that that was like years ago you told me about that, but now it's like when you look around, right, in California, for example, a lot of homeless people are in that situation that you just talked about, but now it's worse. So in
Yeah.
regards to that, do you think is there any way to get help for such a large number of people, that's on the streets? Is that, I
Hmm.
mean, what would be the process like? If I'm homeless, I'm by the river, like what can a social worker do for them?
Hmm. Well, the first thing, like even now, is you connect them to services. You go and talk to them and ask them, what they're willing and able to do, or what they want to do. Actually, interesting is some of my clients, all throughout, my 27 years, some of them they don't want to live in a house. They don't, because a couple reasons. Some of them may have PTSD. Like maybe
Yes.
they were veterans, or if they have, grew up with such horrific childhood, they
Yes.
don't want to be surrounded by a box. They would
Wow.
rather be outside and free, because I've had clients tell me this. So that's one of the issues. Another issue is always housing. Housing, 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 and then of course substance abuse. So you
Yes.
combine the substance abuse and the mental health, and it's like, because yeah, there are some help that we get now, but I mean it's a program. But think about us. Like for example, if we had, substance abuse, or we had all this stuff to get, like we couldn't get a job because we didn't have no place to shower. I mean, how do
Yes.
you get to that? Even the ones that do have now, unless you're in a stable housing and you have a lot of support. And I don't even mean from like, social workers or
Yeah.
case managers. I mean, like you got to have other social support, like friends or neighbor. Like who is gonna help you? Like, okay, well, where am I gonna shower? Or how do I even, after years of living on the street, or after having, still continuing PTSD, it's very difficult to like, okay, now I gotta like to expect them, oh, I'm gonna get dressed, shower, and be presentable and go interview,
Right.
and some of them are not able to do that because they're still struggling with their mental illness or with their substance abuse. But again, a lot of times, sadly, I've just seen that, what, they don't want to do that. They don't want to be part of this of society. You know,
Yes.
again, that we all are adapt to our situation, and some of them, it's like, well, why do I want to do that when people are still going to look at me? Or again, a lot of people have different reasons, and of course the criminal justice system, like if they're involved with the criminal justice system, it's very difficult sometimes, especially if if they have a felony, to find housing. So again, basically it's like they haven't learned to do this or haven't done it so many years, but all of a sudden you want them to get their stuff together, their act together, get a
Mm.
job, get a house. As we all know, how hard is it to get a house? Just like when we
Yes.
got out of college, it was hard. You had to get roommates.
I
That's
know.
not a problem. And it's like even now, it's like, okay, so even people now who are educated with college degrees can't find a decent job, or
Mm.
have to live with their parents. So how do you expect somebody who has been
Mm-hmm.
on the fringe of society, to do that? Some of them give up. But again, we also have a lot of, residential programs and job, programs, and a lot of support. So that's why I continue doing this, because I
Yeah.
see that there's hope, and that there's stuff that some of them, some of us, just like us, we want to be helped. They'll take
Mm.
advantage of the resources. So,
Right.
the thing, we got to keep trying, because you know what? We keep trying for everybody else, whether
Yeah.
not just, for the mental health, population, or the people, your criminal justice system. That's
Mm.
everybody. We got to keep trying to help each other, when
Right.
something breaks down in their life, whether it's their own doing, or whether it's their situation, or whether,
Mm-hmm.
again, like, mental illness. They don't choose to be, mentally
Right.
ill, just like somebody doesn't choose to have PTSD. So,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, but again, to,
Yeah.
to answer your question, yeah, there's a lot of services, but again, you have to look at case by case as to why they're not doing it. You can't just generalize and say, why do these people want to be homeless? Why do these people live on the street? Well, you know what? You working with each individual, you find out why. Because there's barriers, with the system, with the housing system, because of their criminal justice. It's with their symptoms. It's, no income. Again, all the stuff that we, have to deal with, but they're also at a worse disadvantage. That's why the
Yeah.
long answer is it's difficult. But yeah,
Right.
there is a lot of
It's
improvement
complex.
27 years that I've worked, because
Mhm.
before, like 15 years ago, everybody was in the state hospital. But then, in the 80s and stuff, they
Mhm.
started de-introduce, bring them out of the hospital so that they can live in the community. Yeah, I think
Yeah.
that's good. But however, some people need more support. So
Yes. That's very good point. Well, we're almost at the end of our time already, but I know it's so crazy, so many good information you give, especially because I know a lot of my students they're thinking about going to the social work, but I'm like, do you even know what it is though? Like, you know what it entails? Connie, can you briefly tell me about your job? Like, a lot of people say, court liaison, what exactly is that? Like,
yeah,
what do you do?
yeah, yeah. I know. I had to explain to you guys lots over the years, like what is it that
Several
you do?
times.
Yeah, yeah. So actually, a court liaison, just the word liaison is we help connect people to services. So, I used to cover a lot of the behavioral health courts, and the Veterans Court in Phoenix and, Phoenix Behavioral Health Court. But now, I'm in a different team in the jail diversion. So when people are arrested anywhere, in Maricopa County, they're booked at the jail, and then there's two court hearings, 10 and at 4. So basically, so we check on the docket or on the court calendar to see if any of our members, people who are enrolled for behavioral health. So, and then we, tell the court that, they have a team that they can work with them, a clinical team, a case manager, nurse. And so basically, I don't work directly with the clients anymore. I used to
Mhm.
do that case management. Now I work more with the prosecution, the defense, and the court and their clinical team. Say, okay, so and so is going to be released. Be there to pick them up, start working on housing if you have it. Here's what the court is ordering them to do, like they have to do domestic violence, substance abuse. So then, we work with them to make sure that services are in place. That's, liaison. That's what, it is. And again, and then sometimes we get information, from the team, to the prosecutor, because again, the prosecutor has the job of keeping the community safe, whether they're going to charge, the person or not. And so, but if they know that, hey, they have a support network, they have a home to go to, then they'll more likely to release them. So again, we make sure that the court has, and the prosecutor especially has the information enough about the client so that they feel comfortable in releasing our client, and so that they can get services. So that's what I do. That's what a liaison does. I did it in the kids court. So
Yeah.
yeah, so like again, I know you said the question was a typical day. We check the calendar, we do the bookings, we notify the clinical team that their client is in jail, and then we tell them what happened at court, and we make sure they follow the court orders. And then if they come back to court, we follow up to make sure. Then we also check with the jail staff, to make sure how are they doing? Are they getting their meds? Are they having, petitional behaviors, like are they making suicidal ideation? Are they, threatening people? Because then a petition, can be written up by the clinical team or the jail. So yeah, there's like a lot of moving parts that basically we're trying to gather information and give information to the right person, so that way
Yes.
our client, has the services that they need to at least, be, successful and stuff and stay out of jail.
Mhm.
And then of course
That
I work part time at the boys' home, and I
yeah.
do assessments and I do groups with them. So yeah,
Uh, I mean, I think that's like it's such an important job, and it sounds like so stressful as well because like you're trying to get the person the service, but then it's also dependent on other people in their role,
exactly.
right? And if they're efficient or if they
Mhm.
actually pay attention and they actually
Yeah,
follow through. So it seems like
yeah,
your job is to make sure they follow through with what
yeah,
they
and
are responsible for.
yeah, and that's the issue that we need with my job. Like, I have to be flexible. I have to be aware of all the moving parts. I have to be on top of all this stuff, and that's why I like my job. That's why it's not stressful, and anymore, because I've been doing this for 13 years. Because I know the system, I know who to call. Like, and then you have to kind of train the case match. But even then, some people just don't get it, or whatever reason they're stressed out, whatever. Well, then I don't sit there and wait, 4 or 5 hours or a day, I find the answer right away, so that again, it's basically coming down to whether the client's going to be released or not. So me, I don't leave messages. I call, and if you don't answer me, I'll go to a higher up, like whoever's on call. Because the thing is, they're in
Yes.
jail. It's like, we need to do this as quickly as possible. And again, it's easier for me because I know the system and I can tell, the case managers don't know what's going on or what to do and stuff. And so again, like I had to learn, that's how I had to learn to be, a leader when I was first as a court liaison because in my speaking, public speaking skills, like in court, I had to be able to articulate what, the judge needed to hear, what the team was doing, answer any questions, without blaming the team because, they were part of us, we're part of them, and then so yes, I learned to do that. And the best way to do that is I gather information, I know all the little details. As you know, I'm a detail oriented person. Remember, I used to
Yeah.
calendar. If it wasn't on my calendar, it wasn't happening. But I know everything that I need to do, per hour. So you need to that. You need to think fast. You need to, be aware of the procedures. You need to be aware of the system. And obviously, the thing is, call and find and ask somebody if you don't know, because that's how I learned. That's how I know a lot of this stuff because hello, I called and I learned and I found out and I took notes so that the next time it got done easier. That is the hardest part of the job. And of course
Yes.
sometimes it's like, yeah, the people who don't want to do their job, again, it's like, well, then you try to help them and support them, and then sadly sometimes you just have to do the job for them. So, but hey,
Yes.
that's what a liaison is.
Yes. Well, thank you so much, for like, giving like, awesome description of what you do. And, you, of course, have been in the game for so long.
Mhm.
It's like everything that you've done in your life, from college has led you to this moment, all those experiences,
Yeah, yeah.
so I applaud you for that, for staying in it, because I don't think I could do it, just like you say, oh, I don't know if I could do your job, but I think working in the mental health field is a very challenging, but like you said, rewarding job.
Yeah.
Do you have, I know our time's up, but do you have any last minute advice for, for people, for students?
Well, yeah, I think it's always, don't follow the money. You know that saying, do what you like and the money will follow. Because again, I'm a social worker. I'm not rich, but you know what? I have a, good life. After I got my master's, I have my side gig. But you know what? I just worked hard and kept moving. And then, when there's people that will show up in your life and that will help you. I mean, that's how I ended up in this, great, job and stuff because of, people who believed or trusted my word. They helped me along, like the judges and the prosecutor, who are my friends to this day. Is because I did my job. So then they're like, oh, okay, well, I'm going to put you on this project. So again, just like we all learn, from mom and our parents and stuff, it's like, if you work hard, then, a lot of times things will come your way. But you can't just sit there and expect stuff. You need to, move forward. Like
Yeah.
I've been moving sideways for years, but you know what? I like it, because it's taken me this far. So
Mhm.
yeah, and again, it's like, don't listen to other people if they say, oh, well, you shouldn't be a social worker. They don't pay much. But see, the thing is, you don't know because there's so many different things that a social worker can do. And, and if you get a license or a master, you can even, make more money. It's like,
Yeah.
I know people who make, a lot of money and they're not happy as I am. I love my job and my job to this point is, easy and stuff and
Mhm.
I enjoy it. So, I mean, again, it's follow what you want to do because especially
Yeah.
nowadays, there's a lot of opportunities and a lot of people who are there to help you. You just keep going.
Mhm. All right. Thank you so much, Connie. That's a perfect, way to end our segment. And, everybody who's, listening, I hope you really took, her advice to heart, take her advice to heart. And I hope that, this gives you a lot of information about social work if you want to go into it. So make sure you guys like, share, and subscribe if you find the information valuable. This is Miss Silly. I'll see you next time. Thank you, guys.